you guys noticed that Amazon's gotten like very unusable?
I ordered something that was like a brand that I use, and then it came and it was like bootleg.
Yeah.
Like the color was different. I'm like, you Bezos, this is not drunk elephant. This is like drunk giraffe, and I'm not putting this on my face.
And welcome back. You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast that would never try to pass off a polyester jacket as wool. Alyssa, have you ever seen that happen? They're doing it. The clothing stores are doing it now. They're saying jackets are wool, and then if you look at the fabric content, it's polyester.
That's a lie.
It's a lie.
That's fraud.
That's fraud.
I don't like fraud.
I don't either.
Don't fraud me on my clothes. I don't want a rash.
I only like fraud when it's done by scammers to rich people. Then it's funny.
Right. Anna Delvany makes a second appearance today.
All right. I am really excited about our panel today. This is like an old school Hysteria reunion. This is going to be a lot of fun. Going to bring them in so we can draw this panel out for as long as possible because I love these two ladies. Our first panelist is a comedian and host of the podcast Couples Therapy, Naomi Ekperigin. Welcome back to Hysteria.
Hey, girl. Hey.
So glad you're here. How are you doing?
Doing great. So excited to see your shining faces. This is what keeps me young. This is what gives me hope in a hopeless place. It's beautiful.
Amazing. Our next panelist is also a comedian with a podcast. She hosts the podcast I Love My Kid, but it's Megan Gailey.
You've made a grave error having Naomi and I on together.
Oh, the squirreliness has already ensued.
So Megan and I were sending voice notes until approximately midnight last night.
And then I texted her something at 8:30. I said, you don't even get a 12-hour break. I'm back to give you a follow-up on the last voice memo. I do want to say, before we even get into this topic, I'm not going to say what it is, but when I was asked about it, I immediately thought it was about fast food. And that lets you know where my brain is at as we go into this.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, today we're going to talk about overconsumption, but I could see how that could be possibly.
I thought it was food
related.
too. I thought it was food.
Okay.
And I said, and especially because Fiona was like, we want you to come back on an episode. And then it was like, the topic is overconsumption. And I said, this is pointed. This is rude. You've taken a stand with me, Fiona. Wow.
I said to Fiona, you've come to the right place.
The topic is gluttony, and we are bringing in our gluttony experts. No, we're talking about overconsumption in terms, which I think that fast food and overconsuming food is like a part of the larger picture, but it's not the whole thing. We're going to talk about overconsumption as it relates to holiday shopping, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and all that stuff. The first thing I wanted to ask you, Naomi, have you noticed that everything is getting shittier and more expensive?
Absolutely. I mean, it started with eggs, right? We've been talking about eggs for the last year or two, and it's all just gone downhill to the point where I don't even really want to buy that much stuff. Like, nothing I look at ever seems worth the price. You know what I mean? So then I'm just like, oh, forget it. I've got the stuff I already have.
Alyssa, how about you? Have you noticed that things are getting shittier and pricier?
Yes. I mean, it's just like, for me, I do a lot of, I live sort of in the woods, so I tend to do a lot of online shopping. And I have to be honest, I'm a total piece of shit when it comes to returning something. I'll be like, I don't know, maybe it's good enough. I have returned more stuff. Like, I'm wearing a pair of pants right now that I've had for 4 or 5 years. And they're like a little ragged. And so I reordered them. They had them back in stock. I reordered them. I was so excited. They were more expensive and they're practically see-through now. And so, no, they're going back. That is a no. I do not pay for poor quality, especially when it's not made in America.
How about you, Megan? Have you noticed anything similar?
I honestly can mark the demise of society when Olive Garden took a sharp downward turn. Like, I remember eating at Olive Garden as a child and being like, this is delicious. And now it's like, oh, this is microwave Chef Boyardee. And so it's like, I've noticed it in restaurants that I've gone to like my whole life. And I do think for me, there's that instinct to go, oh, I'm getting like older and more crotchety and like more demanding. But that will start to make you go crazy, because the truth is, like, I feel at peace to hear all of you confirm that is not just me turning into get off my Olive Garden.
There was a Dairy Queen in my town when I was growing up. The people that owned it were like notoriously stingy. Like would like had the napkins behind the counter, you know, and like would only give you like 2 napkins, that sort of thing, like very, very stingy. And I feel like that ethos from like Dairy Queen circa the 1980s and 90s has like permeated everything. Like everywhere I go, I feel like things that you used to just be able to expect as part of the experience of being like a customer somewhere or of buying an item, you now have to pay extra for that thing. And I've noticed it really dramatically in clothing. Like clothing is so low quality now, and it is so expensive. And it's like, if you look at the way that it's constructed, like the seams are not sewn
I was going to say
straight.
nothing fits, and that's not just because I've gained weight. Nothing fits because it's all like boxy. You know what I mean? Like nothing is made with like shape. It doesn't hold its form. It can't stand up to being washed. Like everything is just like a loose cotton blend, no matter what you're buying.
Right. It's true, Naomi. Almost every article of clothing that you buy now is like gentle wash, dry by hand. Why? Why can't you stand up to permanent press anymore? Why?
Hello?
Yeah.
Can I give you some warm water? Can you take warm water? I'll even put you on gentle cycle. But I'm going to need you to come out the way you were when I put you in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you should not have to dry clean cotton. Like that is sort of the promise of cotton. And like, I think, gosh, there's probably a lot of people to blame. I think we also have to take some of the blame because of fast fashion and the rise of it, that they're just like, oh, throw them whatever. They'll wear a bag of Cheetos out one night to the club, and then they'll throw it into the ocean and a starfish will choke on it. You know, like that is what is happening, and we are kind of liable in that.
But why is well-made clothing, and again, it's not even that great, why is it like $500 for a sweater, right? If you want something that's any good, the price is through the roof. Because it's just funny. There are brands where, you know, growing up as a Maxinista, you know how sometimes you can get like a nice brand for cheap?
Yeah, of
they ain't even
course.
doing that no more. Like it's like
No.
off, you know, like the Neiman outlet said, no, you don't get anything. Like
I can't go into them. I
It's
can't go
like-
into them. They're like too packed, and I feel like the deals are not there, that I'm like, I would rather just like avoid going into this COVID den.
Right.
No, but it like reminds me of growing up. Like the thing to have was like the Benetton rugby. And guys, that went on layaway for us. You know, it went on layaway right around beginning of school, and you got to look forward to it. Maybe you get it for Christmas. That rugby went into permanent press. I wore it every week. I had it well after college. That thing lived forever. And the only reason I don't have it anymore is because it got stolen when I was on the Kerry campaign. But like, other than
Wow.
that shirt lived.
By John Kerry.
It was
Oh my
Howard
gosh.
Dean, Megan. It was Howard Dean.
Howard Dean.
Howard Dean would. He would.
He
wore
said,
that
we're going to
rugby.
Benetton.
It was green. It was so good.
Yeah, it is like I saw a friend and they were in like a vintage Lacoste, one of those cardigans. And I'm like, oh my God, I love that. You know, and they were like, this is from probably the 60s or 70s. And I bought it for $2 at a vintage store. But it's like, it had no pilling. It had no holes. It had like really held up because it was made with better quality. And if you bought a Lacoste cardigan this week, it would not hold up as good as the one that's 50 years old.
Nope. Same with, I have Woolrich sweaters like that. They're from the 70s and they're cardigans and they don't make them anymore and they look perfect.
We should all be knitting.
We should all live on the prairie.
Furniture is like mostly bad
Yep.
now too. Like even allegedly expensive furniture. Naomi, you look exasperated.
I'm livid because what I tell you, I bought a couch in 2019. And yes, I then spent 3 years sitting on that couch, right? Things changed. We didn't know how much couch time we would put in. We didn't know up top. Sunken cushions, like I want to say 2 years in. And this was like the first time I bought something like expensive. Like where I was really like, I'm grown, let's do this, let's invest in something. Whereas the couch I still have in New York, which might have been Jennifer Convertibles, might have been, you know what I mean? Like Ethan Allen, someone's name in the low to mid range.
Ashley Furniture.
Ashley,
Yeah.
I can still sleep on that couch. Do you know what I mean? Like it can hold up to my full body. Whereas this couch where I was like, I spent like $2,000 on a couch, y'all. I really did. And I thought I was somebody. I said, I got TV money. Let's get a couch. And I have to like put stuff under it to like keep the cushions afloat. I've never been angrier. Where are we getting furniture that's not trash? Alyssa, are you making it? Are you making your furniture?
You know what,
I
Naomi?
can
It's
see
going to
you
have to be my
woodworking.
next thing. I'm going to have to start whittling and stuffing.
Yes.
That's going to be my next move.
If anyone can do it, it's you, and I will be
Thank you.
buying. I will be buying your brand. 3 Dancing Bears furniture.
I'll say it's like, you know, there's certain vintage stuff you can find that's like pretty high quality. And then there's like a couple brands that everybody who has it, it's like, well, it was really expensive, but it's worth. I'm sitting on an Anthropology couch right now that I got like 7 years ago. Looks brand new, feels brand new. Cost me the most I've ever paid for any piece of furniture ever. But per use, the pretty good value per use, and it's not like wearing out. I feel like that, you know, we're kind of dancing around the fact that things are getting more expensive and we're not paying for quality. What we're doing is just paying corporate profits and shareholder value.
Exactly. If the money was going into workers getting a better wage, finally, right? I would say like, okay, at least somebody is getting what they deserve in this process. You know, but we're not. But like in the end, it's just for like the CEOs to juice a stock price. How dare you?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the more companies are controlled by like private equity or, you know, big stock value
Profit
driven
margin.
people. Yeah, exactly. We're not going to see any higher quality. And like I think we're also seeing that, you know, when it comes to Amazon. Have you guys noticed that Amazon's gotten like very unusable, like unusably shitty?
They also, like, I ordered something that was like a brand that I use, like a face serum, and I ordered it off of Amazon because it was gonna take, it was like out of stock at Sephora. Like I did try and like do the right thing. And then it came and it was like bootleg.
Yeah.
Like the color was different. I'm like, you, Bezos,
That's happened to me.
Yeah.
This is not drunk elephant. This is like this is drunk giraffe, and I'm not putting this on my face.
Do you guys think though that things have gotten so shitty because we don't go into the store and buy so much anymore, that we just buy things off the internet and then they come and they're like not as great, but it's more convenient? Like my first sofa, I went in and test drove all the sofas.
Right.
And I sat on that sofa and I was like, you know, this tufted one seems like it's going to stand up to my tush the best. And that sofa, it lives to this day. But like the ones, like anything that we just bought off the internet is like,
But I don't know if we're
okay.
necessarily trading in convenience as much as, because I think about this sometimes when I order food delivery. You know how if you're at a restaurant and something wasn't right, you would be like, hi, this isn't working for me. And you could trade it out. Once somebody delivers something to you, you're on your own. And I think that sometimes it's like, let's send this person this thing that's kind of half broken, because like you said up top, Alyssa, it's like, how many people are really going to return it? And kind of the bigger the item, the less likely you are to do that. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes it's like, you can, the company can kind of get away with something being a little off when it's being shipped, versus if I was in the store, able to talk to a person, able to pull a Karen moment, then they'll be like, fine, let me give you something good to get you out of here, so I don't hear from you again.
right.
Well, and like on a larger scale, it's like we are all able to purchase things to come to our house, to buy sweet green and there no be lettuce in it. You know, like we are able. So there's that anecdote about a winter coat, and it's like about a wealthier man and then a man with less means, where like a poorer man has to buy a new winter coat every year because it is low quality, and that ends up keeping him in his station in life, whereas someone with more money can buy one new coat and it lasts for 5 years and they're not having to spend the money. And it's sort of like, is the system actually like designed this way to have people buy shit so they are not able to advance their lives.
But also they want you to buy it over and over, right? That's where the profit comes in. If you've got to get something, the same item every year, right? That's what they want, repeat customers. That's why it's no longer, you know, they want you coming back every 6 months. And the only way to do that is to make the thing crappily enough that you have to.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like, I don't know if this is just me reading vibes or whatever, but it feels like a lot of people on social media, in my group of friends, whatever, are sort of like realizing at the same time, like, wait a minute, I don't need most of this stuff. It's overpriced and low quality. So like everyone is sort of like, wait a minute. And it's really bad for the environment for me to just buy all this shit that I don't need, have it shipped to my house, and then just kind of like give it to Goodwill. And most of that stuff ends up going in a landfill anyway. Like, so I feel like a lot of people are sort of realizing that at the same time. And yet this year, Black Friday and Cyber Monday saw increases in spending. And granted, the Black Friday spending, I don't know, it's debatable whether that actually like outpaced inflation or not. But what do you make of the fact that people are still, despite the fact that like we can all see the writing on the wall, we're all getting hosed, and people are still like, yes, please, sir, may I have another?
Society's collapsing. I hate to ruin the vibe at 10 a.m., but the world is a hopeless place. And for a lot of us, the only control we have is the ability to say, I want that doggy in the window, and have it come to you and have it be yours. Especially if you are like a shopping addict and stuff, like, and even if you're not, there's a rush to getting what you want, especially at a time where there's so much you cannot have. And so it's like, it's funny because like with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I don't like buy stuff. What I do is I buy the things that I have had my eye on all year that are finally at a price that I can accept. You know what I mean? Like it was like 3 things where I was like, oh, I've been meaning to get this. I've been meaning to get this. I said, what are the deals? Cross-reference across multiple stores and sites to get the best. And then I got that thing.
Right. So you went in with a plan versus just being like window shopping and be like, I guess I'll take that.
Yes. No. Yeah, I don't want to just like buy to buy. I really wait until I need something, but it's a fine line, right? You want to wait until you need it, but not so desperate you'll get anything, you know? Because when you're like, I need it, and then you just kind of take whatever's there, and because you're anxious and desperate. So you really have to come from a place of power. You really do when you're shopping.
I'm honestly shocked Black Friday is still a thing. Like it feels like with Amazon that Black Friday is every single Friday.
Well, do you know if they're still having, like, have you seen any stories about, like, the stampedes, you know, like death outside of Walmart? Because that was a real big thing for quite a few years, where it was, like, dangerous to go.
Yeah, and there used to be, like, hot toys, or, like, really, like, you know, Tickle Me Elmo. There would be stuff that it was like, you have to have this. Maybe there are, and my son's just not old enough, but...
Well, no, I think my son is not getting those things. You're
no,
like,
he's not.
No, we're not doing that.
He's got some Elmo socks, and I'll tickle him, but that's the extent.
I mean, yeah, it almost seemed like those trends also were, like, driven by adults and not children. Like, because I remember when Tickle Me Elmo was a thing, I think I was like in middle school or high school, and I don't remember seeing like a bunch of little kids like playing with Tickle Me Elmos after the holiday. It just seemed like a thing that everyone decided they were going to go get, and it didn't really matter what the kids wanted or not.
Well, I wonder also of streaming, right? Because I know a big part of my upbringing was commercials, right? Like seeing commercials, watching Nickelodeon, seeing a commercial, being like, I need some gack, and just being like, this is the thing that matters to me. Whereas now with so much stuff streaming, even if you stream with commercials, because I have a couple of them with the commercials, the ads aren't geared towards kids. They're geared towards adults. And it's like, buy a Swiffer, and you'll see the same ad 4 times in one TV show. But it does, I wonder if that isn't triggering the same, I need this specific item the way it used to.
And for me, I like went through some real mental stuff during COVID, like when you couldn't get things. And so I couldn't get the things I needed or wanted. And then on top of it, I really didn't have any jobs, so I didn't have any money. And then when we were coming out of COVID, I was like, I must stockpile for the apocalypse. Like, I need to make sure I have X, Y, and Z. And then I was like, oh, girl, none of these pants look good on you. Why did you buy 3 pairs?
Yeah.
And I have purged everything now, and I'm trying to start fresh because COVID really messed me. Like everything from like aluminum foil and toilet paper to like my favorite coffee was. I mean, it was just. I overconsumed.
But also, do you feel like when one of the stores I go to is Target. I don't know if it's growing up in New York City. Like I love a big old box store with wide aisles, and it just feels like I'm like, wow, we're in it now. And I've just noticed how my Target bill has gone through the roof. And I would say I go once a month, once every 2 months. And I'm not going, like, I'm literally buying, again, as you said, like the toilet paper, the cleaning supplies, the stuff like that. It went from like maybe $180 to like $260.
Yeah.
For the same amount of stuff. Like when I look at the number of items I'm taking home at that price, and I'm just like, how is this sustainable for anyone?
Yeah.
You know, like, and I'm just a family of 2 and 2 animals. If you got kids up in here who are going through things even quicker, I don't know how you can function.
The cost of diapers, wipes, formula are so expensive that people have priced it out, and it's worth it for people to get Costco memberships only to buy those things. Like that's how like you save money if you buy the like $120 a year Costco membership, and you save more than that amount of money if that's where you just get your baby supplies. I was thinking, and I was just thinking about Costco and like how I'm kind of jealous of people who can go to Costco, because like we live in it's not like a tiny house, but it's a small house, and we don't really have like a ton of storage space, and we don't have like a massive refrigerator and a massive freezer. And living in Los Angeles, where there's like a very obvious housing crisis, and part of the reason we have a housing crisis is because there's so many single family homes, and there's so many lots that are only zoned for single family, and the single family homes are big, and so everything is sprawling. There's a part of me that's like, we have these giant houses to hold like all of the stuff that we don't need, right? And then we trick ourselves into thinking there's no way to conserve space, and that we need like a 150 pack of fish sticks in order to save money. And I just like, I think like living in a smaller space has made me really cognizant of like what I'm bringing into the space, and how like I actually don't, it's not even that I can't like physically afford something. It's like, I don't have room for it. I don't have anywhere to put it. We've gotten to a point where we have to consider like space as a form of scarcity and not necessarily just money. And so like you start to feel kind of like you're drowning in stuff if you don't have the space for the stuff that you need. Megan, I wonder if like with your son, you feel like his stuff is like making you aware of how little or how much space you have.
Her husband is making her aware.
I am outnumbered. I also think you like fill the space you have. Mm-hmm. So if my house was twice as big, we would have twice as much stuff, and I would have a nervous breakdown. I do not like a bunch of stuff, and I married someone who loves stuff. The tough thing with a kid is that like they do need new things. He's gaining weight because he is supposed to. Right. And I was like, well, that's kind of inconvenient. And so, like I have a pretty good, like, train of people that are like, oh, my kid is a year older than Conrad. And so I'll bring over, like, we just went to the Midwest and he didn't have a winter coat, but luckily someone had given us a winter coat in case we ever went there. Cause there's no point for a child in Los Angeles to have to buy a winter coat for a toddler that he's going to wear one time. The amount of stuff he needs, even when I like got all the lovely gifts and stuff off my registry and like took a picture of it. And I think like sent it to some friends of just like, this is an insane amount of boxes and things. And I had to hire 2 different organizers to come and unpack all the stuff because I was like too pregnant to do it. And all my friends were kids were like, this is the least amount of stuff you'll ever have because the stuff keeps getting bigger. Then they start being able to ask for it. Like the baby stuff is at least like small and like a lot of it you don't need. But once they are kind of demanding or asking things or you're trying to placate them, like when it comes to grandparents. I'm like, I would rather you buy a plane ticket to come see him. I would rather you buy, I told my brother last year, I go, he doesn't need anything. I would like a dinner out. Like that is something that I would, and like, he's a baby. He doesn't know that I stole a present from him, but it's like, I would rather at this point have like experiences than continue to fill my house. We just got rid of the playpen. Oh my gosh. And I was like, okay, take it away while he's napping because I don't want him to see it leave the home. And I'm thrilled. I'm so happy it's gone.
You got room now. You got room to walk around now.
Well, we have the Christmas tree there, but when the Christmas tree comes down, you know, it's like, that's why we had to get rid of the playpen because I was like, well, now I got to decorate with all my stuff.
I mean, it's like kind of a relief. I've watched myself evolve. Like during pandemic, I think I went through a phase of being like, I think we need a rice cooker. You know, like I bought a rosette press in a moment of consumerist mania. I've used it twice. The rosettes are delicious, but like I've used it twice. Well, I've gone from that to now. One of my favorite feelings is like dropping a box of stuff off at Goodwill or at a friend's house. Oh my God. And rush. Being like, it's gone. It's gone.
God, yes. Oh God, yes. That is like like we are a give it away. And it's funny because Andy is actually more than me because there are times when something, for instance, because again, I buy a lot of stuff cheaply. If I've had it 5 years or more, I'm like, well, you know what? We got our money's worth. It ran its course. And Andy's out here posting the stories. Who wants this? We'll meet you in the park. You know what I mean? Like we are handing stuff over. We're doing drop-offs in the dark. And we've gotten, but he's right. It's more like sometimes I don't want to take the extra step where I'm like, I don't want to meet a random. But it's like so like giving a coffee table, you know what I mean? As opposed to just like, or obviously you can put it out, you know, on the sidewalk where we live and someone might take it. But it's like giving it away, going to that Goodwill, honey, saying, take it. And I make sure the clothes are clean and washed.
Always
sometimes
folded,
I put a little thing
washed.
inside that's like, like this is the size of stuff, you know, or like this is the women, like women's clothing or, you know, whatever it is to kind of hopefully help them. I mean, I've never felt more alive and you feel good about yourself. Do you know what I mean? Because you're like, it's out of my house and I am being of service. Oh, well, my God, I'm done for the day.
How do you fight the urge to overconsume when it kind of comes upon you?
So we are taking family photos on Sunday and I don't know what I'm going to want to wear. I rent a lot. I used to do Rent the Runway. Now I do Newly. I like new clothes and we're photographers, stand up, blah, blah, blah. So I like to have sort of like clothes coming in, clothes leaving and not feel like I'm contributing to the ocean being filled with Forever 21. And so I made a deal with myself. Like I'm in between Newly shipments. So I was like, I do need to buy some tops for this family photo. Who knows what Conrad and CJ came home. He said he's going to wear camo. I go, this is bad. So I go, I don't know what goes with your camo motif. And I think you're sending the wrong message to some of the people that will be getting this card.
Yeah, he can't wear that. Yeah.
Naomi, I can't tell him.
No,
so I ordered 4 tops from Anthropology, which is too many tops, but I was like, I am going to be allowed to keep 1 or 2 and then the rest go back. Like I already told myself I'm not keeping all of these tops because I don't need them. And I'm purely doing this out of necessity because I'm going out of town and I need the outfits.
Will you stick to this? Because now you're on recorded media. This is legally binding. I say this about every podcast. Will you actually do that? And I say that as somebody who doesn't like to go to the post office, which is why I also tend to not make purchases.
Well, so what I have to do too is I bought from Anthropology specifically because I'm like, oh, I can go to the Americana. Okay. I'll have a nice experience. Okay. But a blessing and a curse, clothes tend to look chic on me. And so if they come and all 4 look good, no, I'll get like 3 of them are like glittery sort of tops. And it's like, I can't buy 3 glittery tops at 37. You know, like that's a one glittery top season.
Naomi, do you think that the post office is in cahoots with big capitalism to try to convince people to keep more shit they don't need?
Absolutely. They don't make it easy. They don't make it easy. No. I walk in my post office, don't matter what time of day, line out the door and everybody coughing. You know they don't want me in there. They don't want me in there returning nothing.
I said to CJ yesterday, I go, 2 people at UPS at the end of November is not enough people working. Like we got to be hiring for the season. We need to have this staffed.
Alyssa, how about you? How do you resist the compulsion to overconsume?
Well, one, there is the fear that my husband sees a lot of boxes because he is.
Shame.
It's such shame. I'm like, no, it's a Chewy box. It's for the cats. But he is a very rigorous 1 in, 1 out. His mission in life is to make sure that the polar bears see the next century. And so we have really tried to, you guys, we're focused on retirement. And I'm like, is that pair of pants getting me any closer to retirement right now? You know, like, because I had so many things. Guys, I am 5'2". I should only be buying petites. I buy loads of things that aren't petite. They don't fit. They ultimately have to go. It's terrible. So I've really just I have limited my consumption by being like looking myself in the mirror and being like, you know, that won't fit. You know, that's not going to look good. You know, that's not for you. And then also like, thinking about the polar bears. I really do. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I don't need this. And most of the stuff now, like the shirt I have, is like made by a woman who lives here in upstate New York. And it's like a little bit more expensive, but you can put it in permanent press. And it's like super sturdy. So I'm trying to buy only sturdy made in America where I can.
My baby boom fantasy, Alyssa.
Alyssa lives the dream. And then I like
guys, and let me tell you something. When you live in the woods and you go to the post office, there's no line.
Nobody there. Nobody there.
That's true.
You know the person.
And sometimes they'll even
counter.
sneak you the tape for free when you show up with your box unfastened. I'm just saying, guys, come live with me. It's like an elfin fantasy sometimes.